This is Abel Gallegos, 36, who is facing multiple criminal charges including first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, second-degree kidnapping, retaliation against a witness, and tampering with the deceased body. The victim was 28-year-old Simone Duran. According to reports, Gallegos had approached Duran on social media and ultimately convinced her to meet with him, Rene Rosales, and Alonso Quintara. Duran was lured, kidnapped, shot 10 times as she begged for her life, and set on fire. It's unforgivable that this is Gallegos' 6th felony conviction, not to mention that he's been revoked on parole or probation at least 8 times as well.
I am struck by the casualness in which it was committed, the absolute disregard for human life.
You can't live among us anymore, Judge McNulty said. Gallegos was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 163 years. This is Adam David Pate, a Lancaster, North Carolina man who's in court on first-degree murder for the slaying of 33-year-old Ricky James. The gangster took the internet by storm when his freakishly tattooed face and surgically split tongue took its place on the web. One of the most notable tattoos being the 974 on his neck, which is a stamp of loyalty to one of the better-known gangs in North America, the Gangster Disciples. In October of 2013, the then 25-year-old took Mr. James into a wooded area where he then used a knife to take his life. A short time after the crime, 2 children were searching for a lost dog and came across the body of James. Can you begin to imagine the trauma that might have been caused by this discovery? The report says his body was found with almost 40 stab wounds, an absolutely gruesome show of lunacy. Pate told authorities that Ricky was to blame. He said, "Who goes drinking in the woods with someone who looks like this?" And yet again in an interrogation room where he shows no care for what he's done. The court heard emotional testimony from Ricky's brother.
You are so, but they say God is a vengeance. Thank you, God.
Remorseless statements from one of the detectives on the case.
Stated he says he'd like to do it again and enjoyed what he did.
And the judge had a few words for Pate as well.
It appears that this murder, even yet, seems to be completely senseless, remorseless, emotionless.
He was sentenced to life in prison, and the creepy smile on his face only intensified. This next case sees 14 members of the Trinitarios gang who were charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, conspiracy, and gang assault. This was in connection to the brutal murder of 15-year-old at the time, Lissandro Jr. Guzman. On the night of June 21, 2018, Jr. Guzman was chased by the gang in connection to the shooting of one of the gang members just a day prior. Security footage inside and out tells a gruesome story in detail. Guzman ran into a bodega in an attempt to hide but was quickly caught and dragged out by multiple members. The gang members, who ranged from 19 to 29 years old, then attacked the 15-year-old with knives and machetes. Left for dead, Junior crawled to a nearby hospital but sadly died out front of the building. The footage recording was so horrid that as soon as it hit the internet, it went viral and sparked outrage in the community. The trial, which lasted over 4 years, has just recently come to a close. The verdict was guilty for everyone across the board. The sentences ranged from 12 years in prison to life without parole. But just days before this video is released, that life without parole sentence was overturned by the Supreme Court. The details are still fresh, but it has something to do with a fair trial. On top of all this, the saddest part of this case was that the 15-year-old was murdered due to a mistaken identity. After seeing this, do you think any part of the judicial system was unfair to those gang members?
He was no gang members. He was a good kid.
This is Pedro Espinoza, a member of the 18th gang in Los Angeles. He's charged with first-degree murder in the death of a high school football player, Jamie Shaw Jr. but it's the moments that led to this crime that gained the attention of the nation. Prior to the crime in March of 2008, Espinosa was incarcerated on gun charges and an assault on a police officer. The criminal spiral started less than 24 hours after release because it was the very next day that Espinosa murdered Shaw in cold blood. The situation's limelight gained intensity when the Shaw Jr. case was used in Donald Trump's inaugural campaign, when he was pushing for stricter immigration laws and gang violence.
You don't just go and kill somebody cold blood. It's the coward's way out.
Pedro was not only a gang member and a murderer, but also an illegal immigrant in the United States. The trial didn't come to a close until 2012 when the jury found Espinosa guilty on all charges. The jury recommended the death penalty, but that was reduced to life in prison. I'm assuming that any chances of early parole for Pedro are long gone in the wind. Tariq Jackson is facing 17 to 40 years in prison, charged with fatally shooting a member of the rival Ypsilanti gang, Keandre Duff. Jackson's sentencing took place in a packed and emotional courtroom. Marquita Claybron, Duff's mother, tearfully recounted receiving the news that her son had been shot in the head after a 2015 street party.
Our whole world was turned upside down from that point. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because that when our children make these decisions out here, they don't understand how it affects everybody.
Claybron blamed the gang culture her son and Jackson were caught up in. Jackson, seemingly remorseful for his actions, nodded along during Claybron's statement, and when he was given the chance to speak himself, he had this to say to the Duff family.
I never thought that my choices and decisions would affect so many people. No mother deserves to bury her son, and no mother deserves to see her son change. My bad choice led to a lose-lose situation for me, my family, and the family of the victim. I understand that Paul's mom won't get to hug her son again, won't be able to hug mine for a while, and my mom won't be able to hug me for a while, so it's a sad situation. But in favor of my grandparents and my parents, I just want to be known that, my family didn't raise me to be a bad person, or that I'm not even that type of person.
He also fired out a warning to other gang members, reflecting on his choices and making it clear what he thinks about the lifestyle. Jackson pleaded guilty on February 24, 2017 to second-degree murder, 1 count of armed robbery, 4 weapons charges, and 12 counts of perjury. He was sentenced to 15 to 40 years on the second-degree murder charge, an armed robbery charge, with an additional 2 years on a felony firearm charge. There was a lot of forgiveness and understanding that was shown in this case by all parties, and hopefully they can all start to heal and repent in whatever ways they can.